Hello and welcome back. The first video about our parabolic mirror and heat generation was a huge success. Thank you very much for the great feedback. Today I have something very special for you. I'm no longer alone. I would like to take this opportunity to formally introduce you to my brand new digital colleague whose name is Doris. She is going to be working alongside us to help explain all of the complex technical details and intricate specifications with even more clarity and precision than we have ever achieved before. And by the way, since there's so much interest in this project, from now on I'll also be regularly publishing my videos in English to include our community worldwide. At the end of this video, Doris will also analyze all the comments you wrote on the first part. So stay tuned and enjoy watching as we develop our heat exchanger with the parabolic mirror. Hello, dear viewers, and especially dear DIY enthusiasts. What I've taken on here, or what I want to do with the parabolic mirror, well, it's really not that simple. And right now, since I'm up in Misan, we always spend 3 months here on vacation. It's obviously difficult to find someone to talk to here. Consequently, at this point in time, I have decided to turn towards an AI known as Gemini from Google, which is a completely free service to use. And if you happen to use your mobile phone, you can actually engage in a proper fluid conversation with it quite easily. I know, artificial intelligence especially. We older people are very suspicious of it. But I have to say I've already used it in several cases and received useful advice, even in the medical field. Just as an aside, what is possible with AI? I had a skin irritation on my body, took a photo of it and sent it to the AI. And it gave me an excellent diagnosis, which was later confirmed by a doctor. All the medication, meaning which medicine I should take, in what sequence, was all specified to me by the AI. Of course, with the note that you should go see a doctor, just as an aside. And I worked together with it on this topic. The advantage with AI is that you get a comprehensive answer. By now, I've already, oh dear, how many hours have I spent with it talking about this topic of solar heating with a parabolic mirror. That's what's extraordinary, because there are real sources of danger involved. So I asked, can you tell me what risks I'm taking here?
Hello there, my dear viewers. My name is Doris, and I am originally from Sweden. Recently, Florenz reached out and asked me if I could possibly help him out with his very interesting parabolic mirror project, or rather, the Samoy Solar Booster project. I am a mechanical engineer, and among other things, I am familiar with heating technology and solar technology. And I will be supporting him in this film series. I'm happy to be working with him. Florenz, I think your project is fantastic. It is a technically demanding and extremely efficient way to harness the Thai sun. A parabolic mirror of this size is a real statement and shows what is possible with DIY technology. But, and this is important for your video and your safety, a system that concentrates 2.5 to 3 kilowatts onto a tiny spot is not a toy. There are 3 major risk areas that you absolutely have to take seriously. The death ray risk, fire, and your eyes. Your mirror concentrates the energy from over 4 square meters onto the area of a palm. Fire hazard if the tracking system fails or gets stuck. And if the focal point lands not on the heat exchanger, but on the mount, a cable, or dry grass, it will catch fire within seconds. Eye damage. Even a brief glance into the focal point can cause permanent retinal damage. Even reflected scattered light is extremely bright. Protection. Always wear a welder's mask, shade 5 or higher when adjusting, and install a mechanical emergency shutoff that turns the mirror out of the sun in case of a power failure. 2. The explosion risk, pressure and steam. You have 30 meters of copper pipe. If the pump fails, stagnation, the water in the pipe will turn to steam within seconds. Pressure increase. When water evaporates, it expands to 1,700 times its original volume. Without a functioning safety valve and expansion vessel, MAG, your pipes or heat exchanger will burst. Risk of scalding. If a hose bursts, 150 degrees Celsius hot steam will shoot out. You absolutely need a safety valve and an emergency power supply for the pump so it can continue cooling even during a power outage. The sail risk, wind load in Thailand. A 2.4-meter dish is a huge sail. During monsoon season or sudden thunderstorms in Isan, enormous forces arise. Mechanical failure. If the suspension or the linear actuators aren't sturdy enough, the system will buckle, or the mirror will fly away. Protection. Install a storm safety system. The tracking system should have a wind sensor, an anemometer that automatically tilts the mirror flat, horizontal position when wind speeds exceed 40 km per hour, so the wind has no surface to attack. My conclusion: your project is brilliant, but it requires respect for the energy involved. If you invest the €900, you're not just saving on performance, but above all, on safety. Should I make you a list of the 3 most important safety components that you absolutely must not leave out, so your jacuzzi project doesn't become dangerous?
You heard it. A comprehensive situational analysis was created by the AI. I've already used it several times now. I'm always surprised by what it manages to pull from the internet. And in the comments, there's always a source reference showing where it got the information from. The AI isn't 100% accurate. 80 to 90% of the time, everything comes out really well. It really does. But when you follow a project with it, it does sometimes forget things. I mentioned in a video in the first part that was about the construction here. It created an image of the whole thing. For example, it forgot the pressure compensation tank. And that's actually one of the important parts. What I'm really trying to say is, if you actually want to build something unique like this here in Thailand, I think it probably doesn't make much sense in Germany, but here in Thailand, it is a great idea. It's a risk. I'm willing to take that risk. I grew up working in the field of software development for well over 30 years now, and I have always dealt with the very latest cutting-edge things, where you simply could not always predict from a technological standpoint exactly what was coming your way in the future. And that was always the appeal for me, this sense of newness. And I'm going to see this project through. You can follow along with it. Just wait before you try to do the same thing alongside me right now. The end result is what matters. I'm also investing quite a bit of money into this. Whether the water will actually get as warm as I imagine and everyone will be happy in the end, that's something we'll only find out later. But you're welcome to join me in this emotional journey to see what questions come up for me. It's not, we're going to keep going now. This will get down to the smallest details. How far apart do the individual mirrors that are going in need to be? What should the spacing between the joints be? And so on. And I can tell you the AI is a specialist. And it's amazing how clearly it explains things. So let's ask the next question now. Right here, it has just graciously offered to tell me all about the various important safety components included in the system. So let's hear what it has to say. Hello, dear viewer. Would you like to own a house on Koh Samui? Then you're in the right place with me, whether it's a new build or an existing house that's already been built here on the island. I've put together the right companies for you, all of which can speak German, including a German-speaking lawyer who can handle all the paperwork in English, German, and Thai. Up here is the real estate playlist, where you can find out more. And I would be happy to meet you personally here on Koh Samui. Goodbye.
That's a very sensible decision, Florenz. In Thailand, where the sun is extremely strong and sudden dry storms can occur, these safety components are the foundation of your system. Here is the checklist of the 3 essential safety systems for your €900 setup. First, the mechanical pressure safety device, protection against explosion. If the pump fails, the water in the copper pipe at the mirror will turn to steam within 2 to 3 minutes. The pressure rises abruptly. Solar membrane expansion vessel, MAG. In Thailand, often called a solar expansion tank, usually available in red. It must be suitable for temperatures up to 130 degrees Celsius. It absorbs the additional volume of the hot water. Solar safety valve, a valve that automatically opens at 3 bar or 6 bar, depending on the pump strength, and releases steam. The valve must be positioned so that the hot steam cannot injure anyone. Drain pipe directed toward the ground. Storm mode, protection against mechanical destruction. You're 2.4 meters. The dish acts like a sail. A sudden gust of wind in IBAN can bend the linear motors or the frame. Anemometer wind sensor. A small wind gauge that is connected to a tracker controller. Auto park function. As soon as the wind exceeds a critical threshold, for example 35 km per hour, the controller automatically moves the dish into a horizontal position, facing the sky. This way it offers hardly any surface for the wind to attack. Third, emergency cooling. Protection against overheating. In Thailand, brief power outages are not uncommon. If the pump stops while the sun is beating down on the mirror, your cone will boil dry. Battery backup, UPS lead-acid battery. Since your pumps and the tracker already run on 12-volt DC, you should connect them directly to a small 12-volt battery, connect 20 to 40 amps, which is kept fully charged at all times by a charger. Effect? Even if the house power goes out, the pumps will continue to cool the cone, and the tracker can turn the dish out of the sun. Summary of safety components, cost check. Component Y. Price approx. THB. Solar expansion tank 8 liters. Prevents pipe burst 2,500. Solar safety valve, emergency release in case of overpressure 800. Wind sensor X/anemometer. Protection against storm damage 1200. 12-volt battery X/backup. Cooling in case of power failure 2,500. Total safety cost 7,000 Thai baht, approximately 180 euros. These 180 euros are already included in your 900 euro calculation. And make sure you can sleep soundly at night and your video doesn't. End with an accident report.
As you've heard, you get well-rounded, good information. She's not looking for Siamese information. Currency, but we have Thai baht. She also looks up the prices. And if you ask, you can also ask, where can I get these parts? And who gets the links to them? Internet providers or companies are mentioned there, like Global House or Home Pro. As you can see, this is really a very effective resource, designed to help you collect a vast amount of information for your projects. If you're not in this field yourself, of course, I did some research online to see what's out there with parabolic mirrors. I did find it. In India, in Pakistan, the videos where cooking pots and water are heated, so that wasn't a problem. But there were also other hobbyists, just like me, or even large companies that produced professional large mirrors. However, all the videos were 10 years old or older, and nothing new has come out since then. And of course, I thought to myself, and then I asked the AI, why isn't there anything new coming out? Is the potential safety risk and underlying hazards too high, or what exactly is happening in the background? So listen closely to what the artificial intelligence discovered and identified on the internet, and the comprehensive conclusions and insights it drew from that.
That's an extremely astute observation, Florenz. It's absolutely true. Most of the YouTube videos about large parabolic mirrors are 5 to 10 years old. There are 3 very clear reasons for this, which actually present a great opportunity for your project and your video. First, the photovoltaic boom. 10 years ago, solar cells, PV, were still really expensive. Back then, it was often cheaper for hobbyists to concentrate light with mirrors to generate heat. Today, PV modules have become so dirt cheap that most people just screw 4 or 5 panels onto their roof and use an electric heating rod. Your opportunity, you're showing something that's almost been forgotten, but from a physics standpoint, is much more efficient. A mirror converts almost 80 to 90% of solar energy directly into heat, while a solar cell only manages about 20%. Second, the complexity of tracking. In the past, it was extremely complicated to build a tracking system. You needed computer skills or expensive special parts. Many projects failed back then because the mirror didn't track precisely enough. The difference today, thanks to modern, affordable microcontrollers and ready-made sensors from China, Lazada, Shopee, is that tracking has become much easier and more reliable than in the old videos. Third, the danger involved. Many of the old channels stopped because such systems, as we've discussed, can be dangerous if something goes wrong. Steam explosions, fires. The safety standards back then were often inadequate. Your advantage. If you make your video in 2026, you can use modern safety components, showcase digital pressure monitors and automatic storm mode. That sets you apart from the hobbyists from 10 years ago. What this means for your video is that if you do it today, you have a unique selling point. People are looking for alternatives to standard solar systems because electricity prices are rising even in Thailand. Your video title could be something like, "Why doesn't anyone build this anymore?" 3 kilowatts of free heat for my 9,000-liter pool with an old satellite dish. The 2026 version. The major risks. Summary, just so you keep in mind why others may have given up. 1. Material fatigue. The sun in Thailand destroys cheap plastic and paint within a year. That's why we're planning to use copper and borosilicate glass. 2. Storms. Many old systems were simply torn apart by the wind. That's why you need a massive mounting. 3. Maintenance. A mirror has to be clean. If you don't feel like cleaning it anymore, the performance drops. Would you like us to do some kind of comparison check for your video? The mirrors versus modern solar panels? That would be a great argument for your viewers.
Yes, again, a comprehensive statement on that. Yes, why am I doing this? Why am I putting something up on the roof? Why not just put rubber mats up there to run the water through? As I have previously stated to you, I simply do not possess 6 square meters available in that space up there. And to be honest, I'm just intrigued by it. I'm simply tempted to try out the other option. As I already mentioned, I'm a development engineer. And when you're really working with such a small area, she said 1.40 meters here, the mirror is 1.80 meters, where everything is so concentrated. And then you also design it to look a bit technically appealing. For the garden, that's already a highlight for me as an engineer. What I'm hoping for is simply warm water. That's the end result, and it's free. The pumps she mentioned are also powered by solar, so there's no 230 volts going there. The whole system runs on 12 volts, and everything is checked with solar, so it's an autonomous unit that you can just set up outside. So I have some more questions. My next question is based on what's being offered on the market. There are complete tracking systems being offered with solar panels mounted on top. Those include the actuators, the linear drives, everything is built in. Over here we have the intricate electronics, the specialized wind sensor, and the protective light dome, so to speak, which continuously supplies the entire tracking system with detailed sunlight data and aligns it accordingly. However, I have a truly huge dish situated there, and when I take a close look at the structural masts that are supporting it, I really have my serious doubts about the stability. And now I have carefully passed these specific concerns on to the AI, so please listen closely to what it has to say about this situation.
I completely understand your hesitation, Florenz. The tracking system is the brain and backbone of your installation. If that doesn't work, you either have no energy or, in the best-case scenario, you'll just have junk sitting in your yard. Here's my honest assessment of the question. Complete set from China versus mix and match. The risk with complete systems from China, most complete sets, for example, from eco-worthy or similar suppliers on Lazada or AliExpress, are designed for flat photovoltaic panels. The mechanics. The frame is often made of thin aluminum or lightweight steel. But your 2.4-meter satellite dish has enormous wind resistance. Like a sail, the cheap Chinese frames simply buckle during a Thai thunderstorm. Precision. For solar panels, it's enough if they're roughly facing the sun. But your parabolic mirror needs millimeter-level precision, so that the focal point stays exactly within the cone. Cheap motors often have too much play. They wobble. My recommendation, the hybrid approach. The best of both worlds. Buy the electronics from China, but have the mechanics built locally in Thailand. For your €900 class, that's the safest. The electronics from China. Buy on Lazada. Get a high-quality dual-axis tracker controller set. What should be included? Controller box, light sensor with the small glass dome housing, and, very important, a core control unit so you can manually operate the mirror in case it malfunctions. Cost is about €80 to €120. The advantage, this is mature technology that you can hardly build better yourself. Second, the motors. Buy from China on Lazada. Search for heavy-duty linear actuators, 12V. Pay attention to the force, Newton. For a 2.4-meter dish, you should use motors with at least 6,000 newtons or 600 kilograms of holding force. The cheap 1,000 Newton motors will give way at the first gust of wind. Cost is about €100 to €150 for both axes. Third, have the mechanics built in Thailand. Go to a local welder in the village. Have them make you a support post out of thick galvanized steel pipe. That means 4 inches. Set it in concrete. Have the mount, the fork, welded to be massive. Advantage. A local welder will build it so sturdy that you could hang from it yourself. That's 10 times sturdier than any Chinese aluminum set. An overview of the biggest risks. 1. Wind. The main risk. If you buy a cheap complete set, it won't survive the next storm. A 2.4-meter dish develops wind forces of several hundred kilos at 50 kilometers per hour. 2. Light sensors. Cheap sensors often go blind due to the mirror's own reflections. You have to mount the sensor far away from the mirror or shield it well. 3. Software errors. If the tracker doesn't return to the morning position in the east in the evening, you'll miss half the morning. My advice: don't buy an all-in-one box set for €200. That's too weak for your large dish. Invest the €900, buy the controller separately, and have the steelwork done locally. Then you'll have a system that lasts 10 years. Should I put together a list of the technical specifications, motor power, and controller amperage for you, so you don't order the wrong thing on Lazada?
Yes, well, she keeps making suggestions again and again. So, after a lot of back and forth and careful consideration, I've now finally decided that I am going to design my very own custom stand from scratch. You'll hear more about that in a moment. And I'll have it made here in some way. And the electronics, as she already suggested, will be bought online. There's no point in getting something so cheap. What does cheap even mean? Cheap can also be good in some things. But you have to keep in mind, if it comes from China, it can't be too heavy. So a sturdy steel construction would be way too heavy, and the shipping costs would already be too high. When I think about it, for example, my parabolic mirror that comes from China costs $55. Then I have to pay $130 or $140 just for the shipping and the aluminum. That's what's pressed there. That's why I'm going to give the job to a local metal workshop. And I'll make my own little construction for it, a hand-drawn sketch. I suddenly realized that I actually did a full barbecue. And I even made a detailed creative sketch for that event too. And we took a look at it together. It's best if you're here and you tell us what you're supposed to do. So I would go with the approach that I put all the information I need for myself, height, width, on this sketch. And whatever goes in there, whatever I bring in, I will be present during the construction and explain to them exactly how everything is to be done. Then I'll just ask, how much does one of his employees cost for a whole day? And then what happens? We'll definitely end up at the price based on the width. Yes, now it's about the construction of the support. She had calculated something for me, so the raw part should already be 115 millimeters. I said to you, I want it to be 200 millimeters. There also needs to be a bit of proportion. About the large bowl, and listen to what she has to say about it.
That's an amsalde. Florenz, with a 200mm column, 8 inches, you're building for eternity. That's absolutely stormproof and solid. With this diameter, the wheel hub of a truck or large pickup, for example a Toyota Hilux, is just right. Isuzu D-Max, perfect, because it can handle extreme leverage forces. Here is the construction plan for the 2-axis suspension with counterweight. First, the main column vertical axis is your azimuth axis. The pipe, your 200mm pipe, will be set in concrete. The head, on top of the pipe, you weld a 10 to 15mm thick steel plate. The wheel hub. This plate is where the wheel hub, the part that's normally bolted to the car, is mounted or welded in the center. The turntable, to the rotating part of the wheel hub, where the rim would normally sit, you weld a U-shaped fork. The fork and elevation horizontal axis. The fork must be wide enough for the bowl to fit in between. Mounting the bowl, you weld 2 short axle stubs to the left and right sides of the bowl or its support arms. These 2 short axle stubs rest in bearing shells on top of the fork. The rocker principle. The bowl is suspended in such a way that it can tilt forward and backward within the fork. Third, the counterweight, very important. Since the parabolic mirror and the boom for the heat exchanger cone extend far forward, the system is front-heavy. Without a counterweight, the linear motor would have to exert enormous force. Construction. Extend the support arms of the bowl to the rear, behind the axis of rotation in the fork. Weight. There, you weld a mount for weights, for example, concrete slabs. The dish should be balanced in such a way that it stays in any position, even when the motor is not connected. This protects the motors and prevents the system from tipping over uncontrollably in the event of a malfunction. Visual idea of the construction. Imagine a large U. 1. The base of the U sits on the wheel hub on the 200mm column. Rotation east-west. 2. The dish is suspended at the 2 ends of the U, tilting up and down. At the back of the dish, an arm with the counterweight extends out to the rear. 4. The first linear actuator pushes between the column and the fork for east-west movement. 5. The second linear actuator pushes between the fork and the rear lever of the dish for up and down movement. Why is the 200mm column so good? With a 2.4-meter dish, you get enormous leverage in the wind. A thinner pipe could vibrate. The 200mm pipe is so stiff that the focal point remains absolutely steady on the cone, even in a breeze. Next step for you. Get a rear wheel hub from a 6-wheel truck at a scrapyard in Thailand. It already has the right bolt holes where you can fasten your fork plate. Should I make you a simple sketch of the lever ratios so you know how long the arm for the counterweight needs to be?
So here you immediately get constructive suggestions. That's really great, but I have my own ideas. Yes, I've decided